We've all heard about the problems at the big banks in this country, like Citibank and Bank of America. Perhaps those problems are in the rearview mirror. Now, though, there are problems at the nation's smaller banks, thousands of banks across the country. And Lee Gallagher, some very interesting numbers that sort of speak to that story, right?
Absolutely. Just today, the FDIC came out with its list of so-called problem banks. These are banks that are at risk. And the number of banks on that list, Andy, it's 702.
Wow.
And that's a 16-year high. Now, bear in mind, there are 8,000 banks in the FDIC system, and most of them are healthy, but that number is a record high. I think it's higher than anybody really expected. It doesn't mean that they're all going to fail.
Right.
But if you look at the number of banks that failed last year, it was about 140. And right now, so far in 2010, we've seen about 20 banks fail, and we're just in through 2 months. So,
right. So I guess if you annualize that, you'd get up to maybe 120 banks failing this year. Of course, that's extrapolating, and it may not pan out that way. But, really, I think what it speaks to is a couple things, Lee. I mean, first of all, we're not out of the woods yet,
Absolutely
clearly.
not.
And, with all the attention paid to the big banks, the small banks have problems. And where are their problems? Where do they come from?
A lot of their problems are actually come from commercial real estate loans. A lot of them really loaded up on commercial real estate loans during the housing bubble. And those have yet to even, we've yet to see a lot of defaults. Those are just starting. So there is actually plenty of reason to think that we might outpace this year what we did last year in terms of the bank failures. So that's a major problem.
Right.
Another problem is, lending has fallen off, access to credit for these banks. It's all the classic problems that are affecting the entire financial system, but some of them are just accentuated at the smaller and regional bank level.
And, of course, we've seen these problems before nationwide. Back in the 1930s, thousands of banks failed. And in the S&L crisis in the 1980s, also, tremendous amount of bank failures. But it's a real sign of the economic health of this country that, we won't be out of the woods yet until this bank failure wave has abided. Another thing to think about here, I think, Lee, is, the whole notion of regulation. And, we have all these bank regulators, and yet still these banks are failing. I mean, you said every Friday, they come in, they shut them down, and Monday they're open for business. It's actually pretty amazing that, it's a seamless process and consumers don't really see the effects. But still, it's a huge wave, and you have to ask yourself, what are the regulators doing?